Hey everybody, this is Dave from Ask Uncle Dave, and welcome to part 2, configuring a dual router on your network in your home so that you can install an open VPN on one of the routers, and then the other router is just for normal use, high-speed internet access and things like that. Now, normally you install a VPN to protect yourself and protect your external IP address from snoopers and detectives so that they don't report you to your ISP and then find out who you are and give you a strike, fine, jail time, all that stuff. So the best way to do this is to have that second router with the VPN on it. Also, you can use your Apple TV connected to that VPN router and be able to protect yourself when you're using Kodi and all the other stuff. When you're on your computer, you can also connect to software that has your OpenVPN configured on it and use it. But you have to remember to click on it and install it, run it, so that you can connect to different servers, VPN that you are currently subscribed to. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to connect an Airport Extreme and a Netgear router with the VPN on it in the same way in your house, the way I have it set up here. So basically what happens is you have your cable company connects to a coax in the back of your modem, and then you take a Ethernet cable, you connect it into here. Now it's only got one port, so you can't put two of them on, but we're pretty much going to kind of daisy chain this. So you go from your modem and you go into the WAN port of your Airport Extreme or whatever router you're using. And then you take a separate wire and you put it into one of these LAN ports here, and it connects to the WAN port of the OpenVPN router. Now, the problem is when you have these routers, whether it's from Apple or from Netgear or wherever, they have software on it called like the Smart Wizard for Netgear, or they have Airport Utility, and you configure your router, put your password in, do all that good stuff, but there is no section for OpenVPN. And that's required in order for you to take your configuration file from your VPN service and put it onto the firmware so that you connect to that VPN service whenever your computer, your phone, your Apple TV connects to this router. You will not be able to configure OpenVPN and you won't be protected. But if you have OpenVPN installed on a custom firmware on the Netgear router or Linksys or whatever, you can connect to that router with your Wi-Fi and you're completely protected. But the only way to get an OpenVPN on a router is to use custom firmware called DD-WRT. Now, if you go to the DD-WRT website, there is a router database. So you click on this router database on this website. I'll have the link in the description, as well as all the links to all my cable cutting videos. You put in the router that you have, the one that's sitting in the shelf or in the basement in a box because you upgraded your router or whatever. You can use this on older routers, but you find out pretty much which router you can use with this DD-WRT, the firmware that allows you to put the OpenVPN on it. So I have a WNDR 3700, that's an N600 router, and it has version 2. And you find this out by going into the software that came with your router, this one right here that says Netgear. You basically take the IP address of that router, which by default is 168.192.1.1 or 0.1 at the end, and you type it into your browser search up on the top of the URL bar, and you sign in with a default password or a password that you set up for that router so that you can get it into the configuration of it. Now basically you go in here and you go to firmware updates, and when you go onto that website, you pretty much click the router that you have, the version, the hardware, and all that stuff, and you have different firmware downloads that you can download. So basically there's a quick flash software that you put on and you run that first, and then you run a secondary one, or you could just go straight to the secondary one. But you got to remember, before you do any of this, make sure you go into your firmware and back it up so that you have a copy of it in case this goes wrong. And the reason why you install that first installation is to make sure that you're definitely able to do this. Then you go in and you hit your version 2. That's what I need. I need that version 2 right there, and I'm going to download that to my computer. I'm going to open up the original software to that computer, this one here, and I'm going to go into software update, and I'm going to hit browse, and I'm going to search for that download that I just downloaded. That's the firmware, the DD-WRT firmware, and I'm going to click that, and I'm going to install it on my Netgear. Now what happens is you'll see that it's going through the update process like you see in the video here, and then all of a sudden it's going to restart, and you're going to have the DD-WRT software on your Netgear router. So basically now we're going to go into that software by typing in the original IP address. Now you got to remember something. You got to know what version of Netgear firmware you originally have on that, because you might need to update that firmware through Netgear to a version that is compatible with this DD-WRT. So in other words, I was on version let's just say it's 15.9.14. I had to actually downgrade my firmware from 9.19 to 0.12. So I had to downgrade the firmware first, and then take the file that I got from DD-WRT specific to my router, and then put that and flash it on to the older firmware of the Netgear. So you have to investigate that site. You have to know the model number of your router, Linksys, Netgear, whatever router you're using. You got to know what firmware it's got to be on, stock firmware. You might have to downgrade or upgrade. And then you got to take the DD-WRT firmware for that specific device. Mine is version 2, so I had to make sure I had version 2. And firmware update using the Netgear Smart Wizard and updating it to here. Now, after that's installed, you don't need the Netgear Smart Wizard anymore because it won't work. But the IP address remains the same. So now we'll go in to my router. This is my original router here, the W, and I got the software from here to downgrade my firmware. And then you go into your browser and you type in the IP address. So 192.168.1.1. But I recently changed my IP address to be 54.1 at the end. That's this way. There's no way of multiple devices getting confused on what you're trying to establish here. So if you set your Netgear router with the DD-WRT router to change your IP address to 54.1 or some other number, there's no confusion. So basically, now I connect to that router, and as long as you select in here the router itself, you'll see, boom, that the new software is now on your Netgear router. Let's use Netgear for this example. So in this, you can go to setup, and it's going to ask you for a username and password to change it from the default admin or admin password as your password, to change it to whatever you want it to change it to. So you hit that and you log in. Now, originally it was called DD-WRT. I changed the name of it, and I changed the IP address here. I just changed it. I hit save and apply settings. So once I type in now this 192.168.54.1, I will get the interface for the DD-WRT. I hope that makes sense to you. Okay. So now we have the firmware from DD-WRT. We got rid of our old firmware that was on our Netgear. And what I want you to do, first things first, after you install the DD-WRT, is to go in and physically connect your separate routers to your modem. All right, so what I mean by that is you don't even connect the Netgear with the specialized firmware yet. Take your Airport Extreme or whatever router you got and connect it via the Ethernet cable from the WAN to the connection here, and restart your modem. Unplug it, wait a couple of seconds, plug it back in. Same thing with the Airport Extreme, and let it talk to each other. Let it establish a connection with each other. Your Airport Extreme could be either factory reset, or you could just leave it the way it is and just let them talk to each other first. Then what you do is you come up to your computer and you configure your Airport Extreme just the way you want it, with your passwords, what you want it to do, hook up a disk to it, do whatever you got to do to make it running on your system. You might already have it set up that way. But unplug it and plug it back in. Make sure everything resets and they talk to each other. Then you're going to get rid of your Airport Extreme and put it to the side. Unplug it, put it over there. Then you take your new router with the DD-WRT software on it, configured with the username, password, change your IP address, whatever you want to configure it, aside from the Open VPN, just configure it to get it to work with your house. Boom, you got it all there. You're all set up. Avoid trying to connect, TVs to the LAN ports. Just leave it pretty much basic. Go on your computer, type in the new IP or the IP address, the default one, into your browser, and set it up the way you want it with the name of it. It shows up in your Wi-Fi networks, and you're going to see both of them sitting there. So after you have it all set up and the modem and the new router talk to each other, everything is established. They establish both routers basically. Now you go in and you take your connection and you connect, and your cable is connected from the wire that comes into your house. Then you connect here, then you connect into the WAN of the Airport Extreme. Use a separate cable, connect into one of these LAN ports, and then connect into the WAN of the new router. Now what happens is you go to your computer and you click on Airport Extreme. All right, you're now connected to that Airport Extreme, and you go into your browser and you type in anything, ham, what's my IP, anything you want, and make sure that you're connected. Now what happens is, being that these wires are connected the way I just told you, you click on Netgear VPN. Now you'll be able to go into the firmware thing on the web page, this here. You'll be able to go into that, but you won't be able to connect to the internet. You open up a new tab, you type in some search, and it doesn't work. And you're like, ugh, they're all connected. I can use the Airport Extreme, it's right in the middle there, but I can't use the one that's out there. Why can't I do that? Because there's a firewall on your Airport Extreme. There's also a firewall on here if you want, and you can pretty much set it up that way. Now, we don't have the Open VPN on here yet. That's another video after we have this all set up. By the end of this video, you want to be able to connect to your Airport Extreme up in your list here and surf the internet. And you want to also just switch right over, boom, and connect to this Netgear and surf the internet. That's the purpose of this video, to get it all set up that way. And we're going to do this now with the DD-WRT. And what you need to do is you need to go in, sign in, now that you have all the wires connected, sign in here, and you have to go to administration, and you have to go to commands. And I need you to type in this command right here. This command, I'm going to have it up on the screen right now. You type it into here, boom, 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 and you hit Save Firewall. Now what this command does is it punches a hole through the Airport Extreme's firewall, to allow any router that's distantly set up to address any of these IP addresses. So basically it's 192.168.54 because that's what I changed that router to. Yours might say 1 or 0. And you're going to do .0/24 so that any requests from that Netgear that's distantly connected will punch a hole through the router, because you're telling allow router 2, the distal one, Netgear, to forward traffic to router 1, right, through its firewall and allow an internet connection. Now, even though you have this set up like here and you're punching a hole in the firewall, it doesn't mean that when you have OpenVPN on this router that you're going to lose that OpenVPN by using the internet of this router. I wrote a ticket to support. I told them my exact setup like in this video, and they told me, nope, you're still protected. As a matter of fact, when I connect, I'll even show you this, when I connect to my VPN router, all right, I'm going to show you right here. So this is the 2.5 gigahertz and this is the 5 gigahertz. That's why you see Netgear show up twice. But if I'm connected to my Netgear and I type in what is my IP, right? Sorry. What is my IP address? It's going to show me the IP address of the VPN. Now, right now, you guys don't have OpenVPN on that router, but I do. And that's the next video, and I'm going to show you that. So here is my VPN router's IP address. Now, if I go and connect to my Airport Extreme, and I refresh the page, it's going to show me my actual IP address, the one that snoopers want to get my external. That's my external. And that's the one they report to my ISP. So whenever I'm connected to the Airport Extreme in the middle here, I will be reported to my ISP. But this is good for the kids or whoever wants to connect to it the normal way. Anyone who enters your house with their phone and connects to your guest network even, or any network will be here. But if they connect, or you connect to this router, as you see in the previous example of this web browsing of what's my IP, you see that I was protected. And I confirmed that with PIA and DD-WRT support ticket. So this is great. Now you have two routers, one the normal way. Now I have to say, when you connect to your airport in the middle here, you get full speed, 30 gigabytes per second, whatever it is that you're paying for with your cable company. But when you connect through this and you connect to a VPN server, it's not the fault of the router that the connections are just a bit slower. It might even be 50% slower. But that's because you're using a VPN, and depending on how many people are connected to that service is the amount of speed that you're going to get. There's nothing you can do about it. There is some companies that offer a faster way. It has a booster that you install, some command or whatever, and it actually speeds up your connection. Now, when you're connected to this router, once we get VPN on it in the next video, you will not need to run the software. You don't even have to have these installed on your Mac or whatever, because you're connected to the VPN through here. Now, other good news is the Apple TV. If you go into settings and you connect to Netgear, you're VPN connected, and you're safe. And nobody will get your ISP when you're on Kodi on some source and playing a movie like the strike I got when I was watching Noah's Ark on Kodi from some source. They had software on there. They reported to my ISP, and I got a strike. So now we have two setups here, two routers that we can do anything we want. I'm not going to go through the tabs. We're going to save that for the next video once the VPN from PIA is installed. This way, you're all set. But you got to follow the instructions on the way that I showed you how to connect the wires and how to connect one at a time to negotiate what it's going to do. You can't just connect all three of these together and then try to figure out why you're not getting internet service here or there or whatever. So I hope that makes sense to you. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Don't forget to do the contest. Put a link in to where you shared this video and any videos in regards to this, and say that you want to win the NetTalk, and you will be in the running to win this. So I will see you on the next video where we install PIA OpenVPN on our special router here. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you on the next video.